Tonight, you won't be rushing anywhere. There's no tomorrow to plan, no name to memorize, no story to explain, only a quiet stranger, and a door you didn't expect to open. This isn't a love story in the way people tell them. It's softer, shorter, more like a match struck in the dark, brief, but warm enough to remember. You're about to spend the night with someone who asks nothing and gives everything that silence can hold. You won't fall in love, but you will fall into calm .Dot, so lie back, breathe slower, and let yourself drift through this one-night tenderness where your body is listened to, your breath is answered, and your heart for once is allowed to simply be still. This is your story, and it begins with a ride you almost didn't take. The door closes behind you with a soft click. You sit back into the car seat, the leather cool against your skin through your thin dress. The air is quiet, still, warm from the summer night. Your heels are pinching slightly, and your wrist smells faintly of the perfume you dabbed hours ago, still lingering like memory. You didn't drink much, just enough to let go of the sharp edges of the day, just enough to make the idea of not going straight home seem like something worth wondering about. The city outside the window is glazed with a kind of yellow light that makes everything look like it's melting into time. Street lamps flickering like candles left too long. You look up and catch his eyes in the rearview mirror. Just for a moment, he doesn't stare, but he doesn't look away too quickly either. There's something in his gaze, not flirtation, not curiosity exactly. Attention, the rare kind. Noticed, not assessed. Seen, where to? He asks. You say your address. Your voice low, not wanting to break the strange hush that's already settled in the car. He nods and taps the map on his phone, and the car begins to hum forward into the night. You expected silence, but it's a different kind of silence than you're used to. Not the hollow kind that follows awkwardness. This one breathes. This one waits, like both of you know it's too early to speak and maybe unnecessary. The windows are cracked slightly. Air drifts through warm and slow. The softest traces of music drift from the dashboard, a low ambient song you don't recognize. You don't ask him to turn it up. You don't ask anything. You just listen and let yourself sink into the quiet pulse of the car's motion. He drives with one hand on the wheel, the other resting loosely on the gear shift. His posture is relaxed, controlled, but his eyes glance at you every so often in the mirror, not to check, not to intrude, but like he's aware of your presence the way a shoreline is aware of the sea. The ride isn't long, 15 minutes, maybe less, but something about it stretches, like the car is moving through slower air, through the space between seconds. Every turn feels deliberate. Every stoplight feels like a pause with its own gravity. You glance up at him, just as he's glancing back. This time, neither of you looks away. It isn't bold. It isn't a move. It's just a moment. One that lands and settles in the small space between the seats. You shift slightly, crossing your legs. The hem of your dress slides higher. You see the way his fingers pause for half a second on the steering. Wheel just a flicker, barely there. You could speak. Ask something simple. Long night? Busy shift? But instead you ask, what's that song? He blinks as if surprised you chose to speak, but pleased. I don't know, he says. Playlist just plays. You nod. It's nice. Yeah, he says, glancing at you again. You seem like someone who notices the quiet things. You weren't expecting that. You smile slightly. I do. He doesn't add anything. Just turns back to the road. The next red light takes longer than it should. You're both watching it, but not really. You can feel him wondering if he's allowed to say more. You can feel yourself hoping he doesn't rush it. Finally, you say, "You've probably driven 1,000 people like me." Not like you, he says, and then laughs under his breath. Sorry, that sounded like a line. You laugh too. It's okay. It didn't feel like one. Silence again. But a warmer one now. The city slips by slowly. Each block another soft layer peeled away from the day. The world feels folded in around the two of you, like the night carved out this ride and placed both of you in it without asking if you wanted it. You notice his hands. They're steady rough in a way that makes you wonder what he does during the day. You wonder if this is just something he does between real things. You wonder if he's thinking the same about you. Your apartment building comes into view. He slows as he pulls up to the curb. You don't reach for the door. Not yet. His hand hovers near the console. The engine hums low. The song on the stereo fades out and isn't replaced. There's a stillness now that isn't waiting for sound. It's waiting for choice. You turn to him. Can I ask something? He nods. Do you ever park and just not go? He smiles slowly. Sometimes you nod. Then gently you say, would you like to come up for a tea you probably won't finish? He blinks once, not startled. Just considering .Then. Yeah, I would. You reach for the handle. He switches off the engine, and just like that, the ride ends, but the night doesn't. Not even close. The door closes behind you with a soft hush, the kind that feels final and intimate at once. You're in the hallway now, walking just ahead of him, the sound of your heels softened by the old carpet. The air smells like faded paint and someone else's dinner. You wonder if he's looking at your back, the way your dress moves when you walk, the way your hair brushes your shoulder. You don't turn around to check, but you know your keys jingle faintly in your hand. You unlock your door with a gentle push and hold it open behind you. He hesitates for half a breath before stepping in, his shoulders brushing past yours. The room accepts him like it was waiting inside. It's quiet. Your apartment is dim, only the small lamp near the couch glows, casting a warm halo across the floor. You leave the door open for one moment longer than needed, then slowly push it shut behind you. Not because you've decided anything, just because you're not ready for the night to be over. He looks around, polite but unintrusive. You wonder what he sees. The books stacked unevenly beside the bed, the jacket slung over the chair, the single glass on the counter. This is not a home you've curated for guests. It's lived in, half finished, honest. Nice place, he says. You shrug lightly. It doesn't pretend to be more than it is. He smiles at that. You move to the kitchen, small, clean, quiet. You open the cabinet for mugs. I'll make tea, you offer. Sure, he says. Then adds, do you actually want tea? You pause. No, you admit. But I wanted a reason to ask you to stay. There's a soft laugh behind you. Not mocking, warm. grateful. You look back at him. He's taken off his jacket and laid it across the chair. He looks more relaxed already, as if his body has gently stepped into the same rhythm your night has taken. You put the kettle on anyway. Let it boil, just for the background sound. You return to the living room. He's standing by the window now, looking out at the city. You like it? You ask. I like how quiet it is, he says. Like the city isn't trying to impress anyone from up here. You nod. I feel the same. He turns to you. You're not close enough to touch yet, but you feel something building, not pressure, not heat. Just a growing permission to be here in this quiet together. And then from your speaker music, a playlist you forgot you left running. Soft piano, maybe strings. No lyrics. Neither of you moves to turn it off. The song goes into the space like breath. It doesn't feel like background noise. It feels like an answer to a question neither of you asked aloud. You sit on the edge of the couch. He moves slowly to sit beside you. Close, but not too close. You tuck one leg under yourself. He rests his forearms on his thighs. For a moment, you both just listen and breathe and feel the sound settle around you like a second skin. It's strange. You say softly. Sometimes music knows what we're feeling before we do. He nods, like it's been waiting. You turn to face him more fully. Why did you say yes? He tilts his head. To tea? To this? He looks at you with eyes that don't flinch. Because you looked like someone who needed someone to stay a little longer tonight. You hold his gaze. I did. The music shifts slow, steady, delicate. He reaches out just one hand, palm open, between you. Not reaching for anything. Just offering. You place your fingers there, light as breath. Your hands meet like a secret, not clutched, not claimed. Just recognized. You feel the warmth travel from your fingertips to your chest, and something in you quiets like a door that's been open too long, finally easing shut. He doesn't pull you in. He doesn't lean closer. He just holds your hand and listens to the same music you are, and lets the silence between songs carry the beginning of something unnamed. You speak again, voice softer now. I don't do this often. I believe you. I don't really know what I'm doing. He looks down at your joined hands. Neither do I. Another silence. Another pause that doesn't feel empty. You take a slow breath, and then, without ceremony, you shift closer. Your knees touch. His shoulder brushes yours. You rest your head lightly against him, and he lets it stay. And the music continues, one soft song after another telling the story. You're both living before you even understand. It's shaped. It doesn't feel like falling. It feels like being met. Like being given permission to rest for the first time in a long while. The room is quiet, but not still. The kind of quiet that breathes, that listens. The kind that holds space for what hasn't yet been said and doesn't rush to fill it. You're leaning into him now, your head resting lightly against his shoulder. Both of you sitting on the couch in that suspended hour between late and too late. The tea you never meant to drink still sits untouched on the kitchen counter, the kettle long cooled. The music plays softly behind you, something slow and mournful, like the sound of sky opening after rain. Neither of you has said much, but you've said enough. In your way. It occurs to you now that silence between strangers usually demands explanation. But this doesn't. This silence feels earned, like something you've both carried with you all day and only now have set down. And even though the city still hums quietly beyond the window, and the light on the street still flickers like it can't decide whether to stay or leave up here in this room, it feels as though the world has paused, not frozen, not forgotten, but momentarily excused from urgency. You turn your face slightly toward him, just enough to see the outline of his jaw in the warm lamplight. There's something restful about the way he sits beside you, without performing, without crowding the air with effort. He breathes as if he trusts this space, as if he understands that connection doesn't always arrive through declarations or confessions, but sometimes just in being willing to linger past the comfortable point of goodbye. You shift a little closer, not boldly, not as a signal, but simply because it feels natural. Your knees touch again. This time neither of you moves. You feel the way your bodies begin to learn each other's rhythms, like two notes vibrating into the same pitch. His hand, still resting gently in yours, squeezes once, so faintly it could be mistaken for nothing at all. But you feel it. You feel everything now. You think about the red light earlier, the one during the drive. How time stretched inside that stop, like it wasn't ready to let you pass. You remember looking at him, your eyes meeting his in the mirror, and sensing it even then that this wasn't going to end at the curb. That something in that pause asked both of you to decide whether the night would be ordinary or not. And now, here you are, caught in another kind of red light. Not in a car, not in motion, but in a shared breath between two people who didn't plan this. It's the kind of pause that feels like a choice is coming, even if you're not sure what the choice is yet. And maybe that's why your heart is beating like this, slow but loud, like it's trying to keep time with something just out of reach. He shifts beside you slightly, leaning back into the cushions, and you follow without thinking. Now your body is closer to his, not pressed, not urgent, but warm, present. You rest the side of your face against his collarbone. His chest rises beneath you. Your palm finds its way to the center of his shirt. He doesn't move. He lets you. The fabric under your fingertips is soft, worn in, lived. You imagine the lives this shirt has moved through before tonight. It's a strange thought, but it anchors you. It makes him feel real. Not a fantasy or a stranger, but a person who's existed. Before this moment will go on existing after it. And yet, for now, he is here, and so are you. His voice comes low, like it's been waiting quietly behind his breath. You're not what I expected. You glance up, a small half-smile playing at your lips. What were you expecting? He shakes his head. I don't know. But not this. Not someone who feels like he trails off. Like what? He doesn't answer right away. Instead, he lifts his hand and brushes a loose strand of hair from your forehead, his touch slow, unrushed. His eyes linger on yours for a long moment, and in that space you feel something stir, something neither of you is quite naming yet. Not love, not lust, just recognition. The quiet miracle of being met. He finally says, like someone who makes silence feel full. You exhale, soft and open. The warmth between you deepens. You don't try to reply. You just let yourself feel the weight of those words settle inside your chest. Outside, The city is still pulsing in its usual rhythm. Cars humming in the distance, lives unfolding in rooms stacked above and beside yours. But in here, inside this shared hush, time feels elastic. You don't know how long you've been sitting like this. You don't know what time it is. And you don't want to. You think again about the red light, about the way it held you both, the stillness it gave you. How sometimes what changes a night isn't a kiss or a touch or a word, but a pause, a moment that chooses you. One that asks, will you stay here longer, just to see what could happen if you don't look away? You run your thumb slowly along. His knuckles, his hand relaxes further into yours. You feel his head lean slightly until his cheek rests against the top of your hair. The movement is small, barely more than a breath, but you receive it like a promise, not of forever, not of anything beyond this hour, but of presence. You close your eyes, not to sleep, but to feel more clearly. You listen to the quiet music, to the soft press of his heartbeat beneath your ear, to the pause that still stretches around you like the red light that refused to let you go. And you realize you don't want it to end. Not yet. Maybe not for a long time. There are certain places in the world where goodbyes naturally occur. The end of a hallway, the pause outside a cab, the curbside beside your building with the engine still running. These are the thresholds where people are meant to part, where time, manners, and 1,000 ordinary nights tell you this is where. You say thank you, maybe exchange a glance, and then disappear. The street in front of your building is exactly that kind of place, but that night, you didn't move. You sat there in the back seat, the engine purring low, your hand already halfway to the door handle, and something in your chest pulled the brakes before your fingers could finish the motion. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was the warmth in your legs from where they'd been tucked beneath you. Or maybe it was the faint echo of his voice during the ride, saying things that felt truer than they should have coming from a stranger. Whatever it was, you didn't open the door. He hadn't spoken either. He didn't ask if you were going to leave, didn't urge you forward with polite expectation. He just waited the way he had been waiting all night, not pressing, not watching you like a puzzle, but simply letting you arrive at your own question. The clock on the dash ticked once. You looked at him in the mirror again, and your voice, smaller than you expected, said, would you want to come up? The space after that question was tender, vulnerable. It hovered in the car like mist, like something fragile enough to vanish if either of you looked at it too directly. He blinked once and then turned toward you, not in the mirror this time, but fully, his face soft, unreadable. Are you sure? He asked. You nodded slowly. I think so. He turned off the engine. That simple motion, a hand moving to silence the car, was everything. Not a yes in words, but a quiet agreement to step across the threshold with you. Not a promise, just presence. The car fell still, the headlights dimmed, and suddenly the street around you felt like a different world. Empty, like a stage cleared, for only 2 actors. You opened the door, stepped into the night, and for a moment he didn't follow. But then the sound of his door echoed softly behind you. Footsteps, the click of it shutting. He walked around the car slowly, not rushing, not claiming, just moving into the space you'd invited him into. You both stood at the base of your building, not speaking. You looked up once at the windows, some dark, some glowing with the quiet blue of TV light. The streetlight above hummed gently, casting gold onto the pavement. You looked at him. I, live on the third floor. He nodded. Lead the way. Inside, the stairwell smelled faintly of dust and yesterday's newsprint. The light was flickering overhead, half broken, maybe forever that way. You walked ahead, one hand brushing the worn wooden railing. Each footstep up the stairs felt louder than it should have, like you were entering something sacred and didn't want to disturb it. You could feel him behind you. Not too close, but close enough that the air shifted when he moved. You didn't speak. Neither did he dot, and in the quiet, you started to wonder if you'd misread something. Not him, necessarily, but yourself. If maybe this wasn't a yes, but a delay. If the stillness between you was hesitation instead of calm. But then, when you reached your door and fumbled for the keys, his hand reached out not to touch you. Not to interfere, just to steady the keys in your hand. A gentle, grounding gesture. As if to say, I'm here, but only if you want me to be. You opened the door. Your apartment was exactly as you left it, dim, honest, lived in. You stepped inside. And this time, when he followed, you didn't look back to check. You just felt the air shift again. Felt the boundary cross. Not as an intrusion, but as an invitation answered. You offered him tea. He nodded. You set water to boil. Knowing neither of you wanted it, because the real thing between you was already brewing in the quiet. In the glances, in the pauses that were starting to feel like conversations. He stood near the counter, not sitting yet, not wandering. Just watching you move, like he was memorizing the way you lived. You realized in that moment how rarely anyone enters your space without immediately trying to fill it. But he didn't. He let the silence settle. Let the room stay itself. You poured the water, set down 2 mugs. Neither of you picked them up. Instead, you looked at him and asked the question you hadn't dared on the drive. Did you want to come in? Really? He studied your face for a long moment. I didn't plan to. You nodded. But then you didn't get out of the car. You let that sit. The honesty of it. The way some truths don't need dressing up. The simplest ones are the ones we trust the most. You stepped closer, slowly, and he didn't move away. You stood inches apart now. The room had grown warmer, or maybe it was you. Your heart felt steady, but louder. Like it was knocking softly, not in fear, but in recognition. You searched his face, not for beauty or desire, but for something else, permission. Not to kiss, not to touch, but to stay in this moment without rushing past it. And what you found in his eyes was the same thing you'd felt in that red light earlier. Stillness, softened by choice. You didn't kiss yet, you just stood there. 2 people suspended in the pause. Between invitation and arrival. And that pause longer than it should be. Softer than it needed to be was where everything began. The stairwell always felt narrow, but tonight it seems to have grown longer. Maybe it's not the space that's changed, but your awareness of it, how the silence seems fuller now, how each step echoes just a little longer than it should. You walk ahead of him, up to the 3rd floor, the soft creak of old wood beneath. Your shoes the only thing you can hear besides the quiet hum of his presence behind you. There's nothing dramatic about the way you ascend, No rushing or breathless anticipation. The intimacy is not loud. It's not wild or cinematic. It's something else, smaller, more careful. Like unwrapping something fragile. You climb slowly, your fingers brushing the railing not for balance, but to anchor yourself in something tangible. And even though his hand doesn't touch you, you feel him near. His footsteps fall in time with yours, not by design but by gravity. You don't speak. There's nothing to say that wouldn't shrink what's growing between you into something too easy, too explainable. Words would only fill the space that's better left wide. This kind of closeness doesn't need explanation. It needs room to breathe. You reach your floor. The hallway is dim, lit by a single overhead bulb that hums with a sound like sleep about to begin. The carpet is worn in a way that feels familiar, almost soft. This is the stretch of floor you walk every day, but tonight it feels different. It feels like a path not to your apartment, but to something unrepeatable. Something that will not exist again in the same way. You glance over your shoulder once. He's there, just behind, his eyes steady, not questioning. He looks calm, but not casual. Present in the most complete sense. His shoulders are relaxed, and yet you can feel something alive beneath the quiet something. Attentive, like he's noticing everything without trying to change any of it. You don't open your door yet. You pause in front of it, your key still in hand, turning slowly between your fingers. You rest your back gently against the frame and lean there, facing him. The silence between you expands, but it's not empty. It's textured, like fabric woven with all the things you're not saying, but are both starting to understand. He stops in front of you, giving you space, not reaching, not assuming, and maybe that's why you let your body relax. You tilt your head to the side and speak. For the first time since the car. This is usually the part where I open the door, say goodnight, and forget someone's name by morning. He smiles faintly, but doesn't laugh. He just says, "Do you want it to be that kind of night?" You study his face. The question isn't a trap. There's no weight behind it. No demand. Just space for an answer. I don't know, you admit. He nods like that's enough. Like he expected that, and it doesn't change anything. You let the keys fall to your side. But I didn't ask you up because I was bored. Or lonely. I didn't come up because I was hoping for anything. He says gently, I just wanted to keep being where you were. You look down, almost shyly, and for a moment your chest tightens not with fear, but with recognition. You've waited a long time to hear something said in that tone. Not possessive, not hungry. Just true. The hallway breathes around you, and in a quiet motion, you turn toward the door, unlock it, and push it open. Inside, the apartment is dim and golden, the light from earlier still waiting, like it knew you'd return. The door swings open gently, and you step through it without ceremony. He follows again, slow, quiet. You don't turn on more lights. You don't need them. What's unfolding doesn't require sharp outlines. He sets his jacket on the back of a chair. You toe off your shoes near the entrance. Your bare feet meet the cool floor, and your shoulders soften just a little more. He notices, you think. You don't have to ask. You move toward the kitchen again, though the tea is cold now. Still, the ritual soothes you. You pick up the mug, sip even though the taste is gone, and set it gently down again. He leans in the doorway, arms crossed loosely, watching without invading, just letting you move through the space of your own home like it's still yours. Then, without fanfare, without build-up, you walk back toward him. This time, you're the one to pause, and this time, he's the one to step forward. You meet somewhere in the hallway, somewhere between the kitchen and the couch. You don't touch yet, you just stand close, close enough that you can feel the warmth of his chest, close enough to see the soft rise and fall of his breath, close enough that the air feels charged but still, and slowly, like the beginning of a song you already know by heart, your hand finds his. Fingers interlace, not tightly. Not like something being held on to, but like something that doesn't need to be gripped in order to stay. He exhales once, long and low, and you realize you haven't taken a full breath in what feels like hours. Now you do. You breathe in, and he breathes with you, Dot. And though the hallway is short and the night's still young, you understand something important now. It's not always the kiss that begins a night like this. Sometimes it's the walk, the slow, quiet walk upstairs with someone who doesn't ask for anything, but somehow makes you want to offer everything. One small, quiet breath at a time. The water had boiled. You'd filled 2 mugs, one with chamomile, the other with green. You weren't sure what he liked, and so you offered both. The choice felt intimate, safer than a kiss, quieter than a question. You placed them on the counter and said softly, "Pick one." He reached for the one on the left, wrapping his hand around it not to drink, but to anchor himself in the moment. You both stood there in the soft kitchen light, warm porcelain between your palms, steam rising like breath you hadn't let out all night. And yet neither of you drank. The tea cooled in silence, untouched. The act had already served its purpose. It wasn't about taste. It was about slowing the room, grounding your bodies in the ritual of something gentle. You leaned against the edge of the counter, one hip pressed into the wood, your eyes quietly tracing him, how he looked around the room, how his fingers held the handle, how he seemed to listen not with his ears, but with his whole posture. You realized you liked that about him, that he didn't fill silences with unnecessary noise, that he understood how certain spaces, especially those late in the evening, ask for softness, not answers. "I usually drink this when I can't sleep," you said, gesturing toward your mug. He smiled. "And you sleep?" "Not really." He nodded like he understood too well. You took a small sip, more for habit than need, then placed the mug down and moved closer to him. You stopped a few steps away, not wanting to rush, but feeling the thread between you grow taut in the silence. He turned toward you fully now, his shoulders square but relaxed, eyes steady, open. "Is this strange?" you asked. He looked at you carefully. "It could be, but it's not." "No, it feels like something else." You felt the muscles and your back begin to uncoil slowly, as if your body had been holding itself too tightly all evening, unsure if this was safe. And now, little by little, it was beginning to believe it might be. You nodded, eyes lowering for a moment. "I don't usually invite strangers in. I don't usually stay." You let that hang between you. Then, almost whispering, you asked, "Why tonight?" He didn't answer right away. He looked around your kitchen as if searching for the words among the objects there, the hanging towel, the flickering bulb, the slightly cracked tile underfoot. Then he said, You didn't look like someone who wanted company. You looked like someone who'd already decided to be alone, but still hoped you might not have to. You blinked. It wasn't a compliment. It wasn't flattery. It was just true. And you had no defense against that kind of truth. Only gratitude? I didn't think you'd notice. I wasn't trying to. I just did. You took another step closer. Now you were just in front of him, close enough to feel the warmth from his chest, close enough to smell the faint scent of cologne softened by hours of wear. His hand still held the mug loosely, but the other hovered, slightly as if unsure whether to reach for you or wait to be received. I'm not expecting anything. You said gently, neither am I, but I don't want to be alone tonight. Then you won't be. There were no sparks in the air, no swelling music or flash of heat, just breath, just the slow realization that sometimes the gentlest thing a person can do is stay. You moved even closer. Your hand reached up not for his lips, not yet, but to rest lightly on his chest, right over his heart. His breath deepened, and he met your touch like it mattered, like he'd been waiting for it. You stayed that way for a while. Just two people in a kitchen, tea cooling on the counter, holding on to something small but real. There was a stillness in the room that didn't demand more. No one needed to ask what this was or what would happen next, because something had already happened. Something soft, something rare. Eventually, he set the mug down, and you stepped back just enough to lead him toward the couch. You didn't speak. You didn't have to. You sat side by side in the quiet flicker of lamplight. You tucked your feet under your legs, and he rested his arm gently across the back of the couch, not to pull you in, but to let you come closer if you chose to, and you did. You leaned into the space he offered, letting your head rest against his shoulder, your hand brushing softly against his. He turned his face toward yours, not to kiss you, but just to be near, to breathe the same hush. The tea sat forgotten on the kitchen counter. And neither of you missed it, because the warmth you needed was already here. His arm rests behind you, not possessive, not waiting. Just there, a quiet arc of warmth above. Your shoulders like a bridge you're allowed to cross whenever you're ready. The lamp beside the couch casts a soft gold along the edges of his face, catching in the curve of his jaw, the line of his neck. You study him sideways, not directly. Not yet. The way one studies a still lake at dusk, not wanting to disturb the reflection. You've curled yourself into the corner of the couch, legs folded beneath you, bare feet tucked into the fabric, your dress shifting slightly with each movement. The music has faded into the background completely, but neither of you thinks to turn it off. What remains between you now is deeper than sound, something like breath, like pulse, like stillness made visible. You feel his fingertips brush against your arm, the barest contact, like someone reaching out not to hold, but to say, I'm here. They don't linger. They don't expect anything. His hands are not searching or urgent. They ask nothing. And because of that, you don't pull away. You lean just slightly into the gesture, your skin accepting it like water accepts a pebble without splash, without resistance. Just a quiet ripple you feel in your chest. You close your eyes briefly, not from exhaustion, but from trust. From the rare feeling of being near someone whose presence doesn't press into you, but expands around you, making space for your breath, your hesitations, your entire unspoken self. When you open them again, he's watching you, but gently, not to study, not to calculate. His gaze is soft, like it's been resting there all along. You wonder if he always touches like this, listens like this. If the world ever gives him a reason to keep this quiet grace, or if he carries it alone, unnoticed. You wonder what made him learn how to sit with someone this way unhurried, unafraid of silence, undemanding of more. You're very still, he says softly. I don't usually get to be. Neither do I, you nod. That makes sense. There are people who are built for noise, for movement. And then there are those like you who carry a stillness inside, waiting for someone who won't flinch from it. Tonight you think you might have found one of them. He shifts slightly, not closer, but toward you. His hand now rests slightly on your knee. The pressure is feather soft, as if testing whether the moment welcomes it. You do. You let him stay there, and then you rest your hand atop his, not to guide, not to pull, but simply to be with. It is the smallest gesture of shared quiet, and yet in your body, it feels like the loudest thing that's happened all night. There is something different about being touched like this, not as a question, not as a request, but as a kind of listening. His touch is not searching, it's receiving. There is no fire in it, not yet. But there is warmth, and something else beneath it, presence. You turn slightly now, your leg brushing fully against his, your body slowly unfolding from the corner of the couch to face him more directly. Your head tilts, curious but calm. His eyes search yours with a patience that surprises you. There is no chase here, no hunger pushing at the edges. Just a readiness. And maybe that's what you needed most, to be with someone who knew how to wait without waiting. You speak, your voice low and even. You're very quiet. He smiles faintly. I just don't want to take anything from this. What do you mean? I mean, you don't feel like something I need to win. You feel like something I'd rather understand. Your breath catches, not sharply, not in panic, but in recognition. How rare it is to be seen not as a prize, not as a mystery to solve, but as a person worth sitting beside, watching stars form in the slow shape of quiet. You lean closer, just enough that your thigh fully meets his. Your hand, still resting on his, moves slightly, fingertips grazing the inside of his wrist. You feel his pulse, steady, strong, but not racing. He is not overwhelmed. He is here, and still. His hands do not rush. They remain exactly where they are, light, listening. Your head finds the hollow of his collarbone. His arm folds around you like a sigh. Your body eases into him, not with urgency, but with recognition. Your breath slows. So does his. This is not a moment that demands a name. It does not require permission or labels. This is the middle, space between longing and fulfillment, between gesture and reply. His hands ask nothing. And because of that, you begin to give, not out of fear of loss, but because this night and this touch have made you remember what safety feels like. Not the kind guarded by locked doors, but the kind guarded by presence, by a touch that stays soft, by a stranger who waits for your yes, not in words, but in the way your body leans in and does not leave. You don't remember how long the stillness lasted before it shifted. Only that something changed, not loud or obvious, but something in the air that softened even more. You were resting against him, your head curved to the space just beneath his jaw, your breath matching his without effort. His hand still rested on your knee, light as a question he never forced you to answer. And it was in that hush, that warm amber silence, that your body leaned forward, just slightly, and gave its first unspoken yes. Not a signal, not seduction. Just a movement, your leg brushing further along his, your fingers curling gently against his chest, the way your lips parted slightly though no sound left them. His body responded without claiming. His breath shifted just a little deeper, a little slower. That's how you knew he felt it too. You didn't raise your eyes yet, you didn't need to. The yes was not in your gaze, but in the way your weight settled closer into him, the way your cheek pressed against him, not like rest, but like permission. He brought his hand up, slowly, reverently, and let it settle just behind your neck fingers, threading lightly through your hair, his palm not pressing, but present. You melted under it like something unheld for too long, finally finding a place to land. There were no words spoken, no are you sure, no may I, because everything that needed to be said had already passed between your bodies in softness and patience, and how neither of you had rushed a single step. He hadn't taken. You hadn't offered. You had simply arrived, inch by inch, into the same warm gravity dot. His lips brushed your forehead first, the way one might kiss a thought too tender to speak aloud. You inhaled sharply but didn't pull away. Instead, your hand rose, uncertain, but sure, to trace the side of his jaw, and that's when your eyes finally met quiet, honest, unmasked. He didn't move until you did. And even then, it wasn't a kiss so much as the moment before one, the closeness of mouths breathing the same air. That suspended breath where neither of you closes the space, but both are aware the space is dissolving. When your lips finally met, it wasn't fire. It was surrender, a leaning inward, a dissolving of lines. You didn't deepen the kiss. Not yet. You stayed there, lips just brushing, breaths caught together like morning dew on glass dot. His hand cupped your jaw now, the other still behind your neck. Not controlling, just holding. Holding the moment, the hush, the rare stillness of two people finding the same tempo. You kissed him again, this time longer. Your lips parting just enough to let warmth move between you. He kissed you back like someone listening, not like someone hungry. Like someone who understood the language of slow dot. Your hand moved to his chest, fingers curling against fabric. You felt the rise and fall of his breathing, the steady rhythm beneath his skin. Your body leaned into him more fully now, your leg draped across his lap, not to press, but to anchor. He welcomed you with arms that opened but didn't pull. That invited but didn't insist, and the music played on. You barely noticed the song, but your bodies moved to its quiet pulse, kisses deepening, not in haste, but in gravity. Mouths meeting, parting, brushing again. Each contact an answer to the question neither of you had spoken. At some point, your fingers found the buttons of his shirt. You hesitated, not out of fear, but out of reverence. He placed his hand gently atop yours, not to stop you, but to let you feel his stillness. The way he would wait for every yes you gave one at a time, and in that moment you realized you didn't want to rush past this part where your yes was still made of breath, of movement, of how your hand slid up along his chest and rested there instead. Because this was the part that held the truth of the night, not what might happen after, but the fact that everything that was already happening was enough. You shifted your weight into him. He reclined slightly, drawing you closer without claiming you. Your knees bent on either side of him now, your body draped gently across his lap. His hand steadied you, resting at your waist, unmoving. Waiting, you pressed your forehead to his and let your eyes fall shut. The space between your chests buzzed softly, like the tension of a cord not yet resolved. You stayed like that, not moving. Not speaking. Just two people wrapped around a quiet yes. A yes given not to what might come next, but to what is, the safety of stillness. The warmth of being met. And the hush of a night that finally feels like it's listening. The room doesn't change when you enter it, but you do. You flick on the small lamp by the bed, and the soft yellow glow spills across the walls, pooling in corners like light that's been waiting all day to feel useful. Nothing has been prepared. The sheets are rumpled from last night's sleep. A book lies open face down on the nightstand. A sweater is draped loosely over a chair. This isn't the kind of space you show to impress. It's the kind you show to be seen. And still he steps in behind you without hesitation, without scanning or assessing. He doesn't need the room to be more than it is. Maybe because he isn't trying to enter your life, only this moment. Maybe because he isn't looking to be dazzled, only to be allowed in. You turn toward him, and there is a pause. Not the kind that suggests nervousness, but reverence. You both recognize that this is the threshold where everything becomes a little more true, where what you feel becomes what you do. You don't speak. Words now would be like too much perfume distracting from the scent that's already in the air. Calm, mutual, ready. You step to him. Not to be taken. Not to seduce, but to unfold. His hands meet your waist like they've been waiting for this shape. And you lean into him, not heavily, not urgently, but completely. The way a petal leans toward warmth without trying to bloom faster than nature allows. He doesn't rush. He breathes in the moment. His fingers don't wander. They settle, one hand behind your back, the other gently brushing the side of your face. You feel his breath along your temple before you feel his lips. When he kisses you this time, it is deeper, but not heavier, more anchored, more honest. Your lips meet like two tides turning toward the same shore. There is rhythm now, there is presence. Not the kind that overtakes, but the kind that invites. His thumb grazes your cheekbone as if to remember the shape of it. You open your mouth slightly, not for want, but for welcome. And you feel it, that your body isn't performing. It's receiving. You rest your palms against his chest, fingers splayed wide, and you feel the steady thump of his heartbeat beneath his shirt. It soothes you more than the lamp's light, more than the safety of home. You're no longer thinking about where this leads. You're thinking about how this feels right now, this second, this breath. He pulls back slightly, enough to see your eyes. There's no question in them, only a kind of quiet listening. You. Not once. No need to speak. He understands. Together, you move slowly to the edge of the bed. You sit first, drawing your knees up, letting your shoulders ease. He follows, not hovering, not looming, just existing beside you like the air you've always trusted. Your hand reaches for his. Fingers lace easily, you lie back. He lies beside you, and still neither of you rushes. The ceiling above is washed in golden light. The silence in the room has thickened, not with tension, but with permission. You close your eyes for a moment, and in the darkness behind your eyelids, you feel his fingertips brush your collarbone, then pause. One by one, your buttons come undone, not all at once, but slowly, as though each one is a question, and each time your breath is the answer. There's nothing about this that feels scripted, nothing that feels borrowed. You are unfolding, not like a performance, but like an exhale. A long, slow exhale that's been waiting all week to leave your body. When your clothes fall away, they fall like autumn leaves, softly, without noise, without needing to be explained. His shirt joins yours on the chair. Bare skin meets bare skin, not in fire, but in warmth. Your legs tingle. His palm finds the small of your back. Your mouths meet again, slower this time. You taste each other, not like hunger, but like being familiar, necessary. And in this room, under this light, in this moment where nothing is demanded and nothing is withheld, you feel yourself fully allowed to feel, to give, to receive, to not know what comes next. You shift into him. He shifts into you. And together, without needing to say aloud, you let yourselves be made entirely of touch, of skin and size and closeness that doesn't need a name. You don't mark time by what you do or how far you go. You mark it by presence, by the soft way his hand brushes your hair away from your cheek, by the breath you let out when he moves over you like a wave without a crash, by the way your hips meet his with the slow, natural rhythm of something old. You don't speak, not until after when your bodies have quieted, when your skin still sings from where his met yours, and your breath has returned to its rhythm. Then, only then, do you whisper, "Thank you." And he doesn't say you're welcome. He just leans in and touches his lips to your forehead again, like a hush dot, like a seal, like a room that knew how to hold the unfolding of something real. The room is dim now, as if it has exhaled with you. The lamp by the bed still glows in its corner, casting long, honey-colored shadows across the walls, across the bed, across two bodies wrapped in the gentlest kind of silence. Your clothes are somewhere nearby, though they no longer matter. Your hair spills over the pillow in waves. His arm is beneath your neck, his chest rising and falling in a rhythm that matches yours like a metronome finally finding the right tempo. No one is moving, not because there is fear or doubt or exhaustion, but because movement would break something fragile. Something sacred. There's a kind of stillness that comes only after closeness, after skin has spoken to skin in the way lips never can, after touch has written its soft language on every inch of the body, and there's nothing left to say except I'm here. This is that stillness, complete, heavy but not burdened, full but not loud. You shift slightly in the sheets, not to adjust, but to settle more deeply into the curve of his shoulder. He doesn't stir. His breath remains slow, calm. Your fingertips rest lightly against his ribs, tracing the outline of a person you've only just met. And yet, in this hour, perhaps only because it's fleeting, he feels like something deeply familiar, not known. But recognize, your eyes drift open and the ceiling looks like a sky. Not one filled with stars, but with silence. That perfect late night silence that wraps itself around a moment and makes it feel longer than it is. Morning will come. The world outside this room still turns, still calls. But right now, none of it feels urgent. Not your phone, not your plans, not even his name. What matters is here, breath, warmth, this stillness that feels. Like a held note at the end of a song, he brushes a hand softly across your shoulder, barely more than a touch. You feel it anyway. It's not a request, not a signal, just acknowledgement. His fingers settle on your arm and stay there, grounding you. You wonder silently if he feels the same pull to keep this moment exactly as it is, to not name it, to not shape it, to just let it exist like a small snow globe of time no one else will ever see inside. You close your eyes again, and you think of nothing, nothing but the weight of his hand, the softness of the pillow, the cool air on your back. Where the blanket slips slightly down, you don't fix it. You like that it slipped. You like everything as it is. There's a clarity that comes in moments like this, when the noise of the world has been cleared away and you're left only with presence. You don't feel the need to define what just happened. You don't even replay it in your mind. You just let it be. Let it hang in the air like a warmth that still lingers after the fire has gone out. He exhales. You mirror it. Your fingers slide slowly along his hand, and you thread them between his, not tightly, not for forever, just for now. His grip answers yours, soft and sure. No promises are exchanged, no vows made. Just a shared understanding that this night, exactly as it unfolded, was enough. You feel him shift slightly beside you, and his lips press a kiss just behind your ear, tender, half asleep, and utterly without expectation. You turn toward him instinctively, your faces only inches apart now in the half light. His eyes are heavy, so are yours. And yet, neither of you sleeps. You rest there for a while longer. One heartbeat after another, one breath into the next. You've forgotten what time it is. You've forgotten to care. There's something beautiful in the not dash knowing dot in the decision, not to ask what this means or what comes next. There's only this, his chest beneath your hand. Your cheek against his shoulder, the bed holding both of you in its quiet cradle. Outside the window, the street is asleep. The world spins on. Somewhere someone is calling an Uber. Somewhere someone is saying goodnight at their door, but not here. Not you. You're still lying still with him. And the stillness is enough to let you lie there. Not counting time, but feeling it. The way one feels sunlight through closed eyelids, warm, slow, certain. His chest rises beneath your palm, steady and deep, like a tide that knows it. Never has to rush to touch the shore. The longer you listen to it, the more your body sinks to his. You hadn't noticed until now how often your breath comes too quickly. How you sometimes forget to fully inhale, how your shoulders carry stories they were never meant to hold. But now, in this bed, in this quiet, you are learning something new. His breath moves like the ocean wide, forgiving, patient. It doesn't hurry you, it invites. You match it little by little without trying, as if your lungs are learning from his, as if your heart is being gently reminded how to rest. Not just to slow down, but to belong here in this rhythm that asks nothing from you but presence. You shift just enough to press your ear against his chest. And there it is again, that sound. The intimate thrum of life muffled through bone and skin. It's not poetic because it's rare. It's poetic because it's constant. He lives. And tonight, he lives beside you. And that is enough. Your hand draws idle shapes on his rib circles, spirals, something soft. He doesn't stir. He knows this moment isn't for words. It's for staying. For stillness. For the quiet work of simply being with someone. You'd almost forgotten people could do that. That sometimes a man doesn't have to say much to say everything. Sometimes he just has to breathe like this and let you rest your story in the spaces between. You wonder how long it's been since you felt safe enough to let your body soften, not perform, not protect, just melt. The way you are now, shoulders loosened, legs entangled, breath falling in time with another's. You've spent so much of your life being alert, reading the room, preparing the exit. But here, in the curve of this arm and the weight of this hush, there's no need to run. The door exists, but it's not calling. You wonder briefly what he sees in this moment, if he's awake, if his mind is quiet too, or if it roams the way yours does. But you don't ask. You don't need to know. You just want to remain here, suspended, where breath is the only language, and it is spoken fluently between you. He shifts slightly, drawing his hand slowly along your back in a motion so gentle it feels like wind through grass. Not to seduce, not to awaken, but simply to say, I feel you. You let out a soft sigh, one that's been waiting all night for a place to land. And then, without plan, without ceremony, you say, I don't know why this feels so easy. He hums, the sound low and fond, vibrating gently through his chest. To your cheek, maybe, he says, because there's nothing to win. You blink. He continues, barely above a whisper. I'm not trying to be anything. You're not trying to be anything. And there's nothing here we're pretending. You stay quiet, letting the words settle. You realize he's right. There's no performance here, no effort to impress. No question of where it goes. Just one night, one room. One stranger who didn't turn out to be strange at all. You lift your face slightly and meet his eyes in the lamplight's edge. His hair's a little tousled now, his mouth soft, eyes half-lidded but still awake. And when he looks at you, it's not searching. It's not planning. It's simply seeing. You kiss him, slow and close, not to begin again, but to thank him for the stillness, for the breath, for the rhythm that taught you calm. He responds in kind. Not deepening, not pulling, just staying there with you. Lips brushing, breath shared, like sleep, like peace. You pull away, but only slightly. And then you whisper, don't leave just yet. He smiles, sleep already touching the corners of his eyes. I wasn't planning to. You rest your forehead against his, and somewhere between the warmth of your bodies and the softness of the sheets, you drift. Not into dreams. But into stillness, real, grounded, wordless calm. The kind you didn't know you needed until his breathing taught you how. You don't know when you stop speaking. Maybe somewhere between the hush of your breath and the echo of his heartbeat, that now the silence feels like an old friend curled up between you. The bed is warm beneath your back, the sheets tangle gently around your waist, and above you the ceiling is just white plaster, but it might as well be sky, because tonight you're not just lying still, you're floating. He's beside you. One arm beneath your neck, the other stretched across his chest. His body doesn't press against yours anymore. It rests next to it, not needing to prove its presence. Just being there, like moonlight, like quiet. You lie with your head turned slightly toward him, not touching, but close. Close enough to feel the weight of him in the mattress, close enough to hear the tiny sound he makes when he exhales like peace wearing a voice. Your fingers lie idle between you. They don't search, they've already found. There is nothing left to reach for, nothing to take, only to remain. You turn your eyes to the ceiling again, and you begin to see it differently, Dot. It is speckled with shadows, soft curves of reflected streetlight, tiny imperfections in the plaster, faint beams from cars passing far below. But it feels like stars, like a night sky turned inside out, like the universe is watching quietly from above. And for once, it's not demanding you move. It's just watching, letting you be. You don't speak. You don't ask him what this meant. You don't want to. The question would shrink something that feels so beautifully uncontained. Tonight is not about answers. It never was. You're not planning tomorrow. You're not even planning morning. You're just letting it exist, letting it endure, the kind of night that needs no story. Because it is the story, your body hums quietly, not from what happened between the sheets, but from what happened in the stillness afterward. His calm, his quiet, his decision not to fill space just to be heard. How he gave you time, how you gave it back, Dot, and now, here you are, watching the ceiling as if it were a sky full of secrets, full of all the things neither of you will say, because you don't need to. He shifts slightly, and you glance over to find him looking at you, not like he's studying, but like he's memorizing, not to remember what you look like, but how this moment feels. His lips part, maybe to speak, but they don single quotes T. Dot instead. He just smiles, Dot. It's soft. Not sad. Not certain, Dot, just real. You mirror it. Then you breathe, and the breath is whole, deep, complete, as if something inside you that had been clenched for months has finally let go. You're not in love. You're not pretending. But you're changed. Not because of anything he promised, but because of how he stayed, because of how he left. Room for silence, because of how he treated the space between you like something holy. You reach over and gently touch his wrist. One last gesture, not to pull him closer, not to begin anything new, but to mark this. This night, this moment, this stillness. He turns his palm to yours, fingers meet, stay, and the ceiling stretches on, not blank, not forgotten, but filled with stars you both silently named and never said out loud. Dot, some nights don't ask you to fall in love. They don't need labels or endings or reasons. They just offer a moment, a breath, a touch, a presence that reminds you you are capable of softness, of stillness, of letting someone in without losing yourself. And sometimes that's enough. Tonight was never about forever. It was about the feeling you'll carry long after the door closes. About a stranger who met you exactly where you were and the quiet way he stayed.